Hi there, this is Kathy Passwark, your instructor for FS 102, Introduction to the College Experience, here to talk with you about the exciting topic of time management. It seems that any discussion of time management does also have to include some conversation about the concept of procrastination. Procrastination is defined as the avoidance of doing a task that needs to be accomplished. It involves taking on more pleasurable tasks in place of less pleasurable ones, and also carrying out less urgent tasks instead of those that are more urgent. I think we all have a tendency to do this at sometimes. Hopefully by now you have all read uh, the critical thinking case study titled The Procrastinators in your textbook. And it's sort of an interesting story about Ricardo and Tracy. Perhaps you could identify with some of the issues either Ricardo or Tracy, or perhaps both of them, were dealing with in this story. As we can see, the procrastination is a self or a time management problem that probably all of us need to address at some point in our lives. The discussion board for this part of our class involves some conversation about self-management or time management strategies and asks you to give some advice to Ricardo and or Tracy about their time management issues. Perhaps you can describe some strategies you have used in the past that could help either Ricardo or Tracy with the issues they're dealing with in this story. Next, let's talk about the quadrant that you read about in your book, the quadrant of time management. The concepts of the time management system described here come from a book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This chart shows that all of our actions fit into one of these 4 categories. You can see that first of all, the categories are divided into tasks that are either important or not important, and urgent and not urgent. Let's try and think about the tasks that we're putting into these categories in terms of the goals that we have set earlier in the semester for ourselves as a student. Along with the time use diary that you are keeping for this part of our course, you will be determining how some of your activities fit into these quadrants. So let's think about how you spend your time and where you want most of your time to be spent. I think you've been given a little bit of a hint in that we probably would like most of our time to be spent in quadrant 2, with things that aren't urgent, aren't an emergency, but yet are still important. Certainly schoolwork would be there, shopping for groceries would be there, hopefully buying gas is there and not in the urgent category that let your gas tank get completely empty until it's a complete emergency that you get gas right away. So there is some flexibility with where you put things into these categories, and sometimes it is a matter of opinion, but really think about that as you look at your time use diary and determine what category to put your events into. So when we talk about the quadrants, let's look at quadrant 4, and that's described here on the PowerPoint as the quadrant of waste or escape. Sometimes I have a little bit of a problem with that description just because I feel that as busy students, there are definitely some times that you need downtime. You need just time to do whatever it is that helps you to relax. Some people might say if that's not getting you towards your goal, then that's not a good use of your time, but that downtime is important as well. So some people might say, well, it actually is important but not urgent, giving myself time to go for a run or to relax with friends, or for some people it might be spending time on Facebook. Just to get some downtime and a break from schoolwork can be important as well. However, the problem can occur when too much of our time is spent in something like quadrant 4 on video games or whatever, and then schoolwork becomes urgent and moves into quadrant 1 because we've procrastinated for so long and have a test that's coming up the next day that we haven't spent any time studying for. So as we look at how we use our time, it's important to think about whether the tasks we are performing are important, not important, urgent or not urgent in the scheme of our goals as a student. And this concludes our time management lecture. Thanks for listening.